How is it that our Star Nation brothers and sisters are informing humanity and, in fact, informing what we look like and these magnificent human bodies that we wear? We're going to find out more about that on the show today. Stay tuned.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
G'day, Karen here, accentuating the positive, awakening consciousness on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio, streaming all over America and Canada. And we're on 8 streaming platforms today: YouTube, of course, Facebook, Twitch, and Rumble. So we're everywhere. Well, I've got a fascinating, exciting guest for you today who's going to talk about her incredible journey with her Star Nation brothers and sisters. And we've just been yakking for about half an hour online. I have to repeat most of the conversation because it was so good. I'm like, I wish we were recording. So about her connection with other people who are from the Star Nations in a hybrid form, who are all over the world. And so I'd love to introduce you to Jacquelin Smith. Welcome to the show, Jacquelin.
Oh, thank you, Karen. It's delightful to be here today. I'm really looking forward to it.
Jacquelin and I were just talking about Judy Carroll, who's coming. I'm pretty sure Judy's coming on the show next week. And Judy's an Australian. Well, at least her body was born in Australia. and I said, you know, you're good friends with Judy and Jacquelin. Do you want to share with people what you said about your connection with Judy?
Judy is one of my closest friends. We're very close, and we have actually been ET siblings at least once in another lifetime. And actually, we remembered. We had the same memories as we talked. It just unraveled, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, I loved that. We were talking about other galactic gals, but we'll get into that in a minute. Let me just tell you, if you haven't seen Jacquelin before, actually, Jacquelin and I were just on the portal to Ascension, Humanity's Great Awakening. There were 77 speakers. You were one of them. I was one of them. And there were like 70 more that went for 11 days, an free online conference. So if you want to check out some of the speakers, go over to Portal to Ascension on YouTube. I think that's the place to find them. But Jacquelin, let me tell you a bit about her. Smith has been communicating with star beings, interdimensional beings, and animals since early childhood. Her fascinating and otherworldly true story will expand your consciousness about humanity, the cosmos, and who we truly are, star beings. Today, we will journey with Jacquelin as she recounts her lifelong encounters with star beings starting at the age of 3. Her experiences on the starships, where she met her star parents, attended classes to enhance her innate psychic abilities and expand her consciousness. Jacquelin was also given messages of hope for the future, hopefully hope for the future, to share with humanity. And as an adult, Jacquelin retrieved her profound memories about her earthly and cosmic upbringing, along with several near-death experiences, remembering having hybrid children and how she was a part of the hybridization program. She is an internationally known animal communicator, light linguist, and author of 3 books. In her book, Star Being in the Mirror, let me bring this up. Here we go. This is my journey as a hybrid. Jacquelin chronicled her lifelong encounters with star beings, discussing the importance of the hybridization program as well as light languages. She also has authored Animal Communication, Our Sacred Connection with the Animals, and let me bring this one up, Star Origins. which is about, where are we? Which is about, and wisdom of animals, talks with animal souls. Wow, that sounds like a fascinating book, Jacquelin. And you've presented webinars about mantis beings. Recently wrote a book, an ebook about the mantis, which is a free download on your website, right?
Yes.
And Jacquelin's website is Jacquelin Smith, Jacquelin without the E on the end, smith.com. Okay, let's get into your story. And please remember, if you're listening to the shows and liking the shows, I do have a link under all the shows for donations if you'd like to donate to the shows. I've been doing these shows now for about 16 years and I don't monetize my shows at all. In fact, I was going to quit because I don't monetize my shows and put ads all over a certain platform. That certain platform just completely stopped showing my shows to people. But then I went on syndicated radio this year, so we're speaking to about 300,000 live listeners through the syndicated radio network, UFO Public, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network and the United Public Radio Network, which is fantastic. But for those people who are online watching it on YouTube or Rumble, there's always a link where you can donate. Right, I forget to say that. 15 years, I think I've only said that a dozen times on the show. Must remember to say that. All right, age of 3. And so, yeah, we were talking about you and Judy. We were talking about Susie Hansen in New Zealand and Sherry Wild also in the States. And I'm thinking, because you're all around the same generation, right? You're all around the same age. And you're all these hybrid dual souls that have been placed on Earth in different parts of the Earth to inform humanity about who we are as multidimensional beings and how we are connected to the stars. Do you want to go into how it all started?
Well, for me, my journey started when I was actually in my mother's womb. And my mother was taken aboard a starship, and the star beings on the ship injected me with what I call a cocktail, a DNA cocktail, from 7 different races. So that's why I call myself a hybrid, because I was genetically altered by the star beings. In the larger sense, we're all hybrids because we all come from many different star systems, and we have a mix of all kinds of different races. Some might be pure, but many are mixed as well. And so I was aware at a very early age that the star beings were around me. I mean, I actually remember them when I was in my crib, that they were helping me to adjust to Earth. And starting around the age of 3, they started taking me on the ship, which I loved. I'll say it was unconditional love on the ship. All the beings who were there loved unconditionally. So it was like being in heaven. It was just incredible. And my star parents, they're Zazu and Amita. I call them my star parents because their DNA was one of the DNAs that were put in me, but they were my key guardians on the ship who watched over me most of the time. So they did become, well, they really are parents because I have their DNA. So Zazu and Amita are Tau White Zeta masters, not to be confused with the Tall Whites in Nevada that Charles Hall talks about. Zazu and Amita are from Centauri B, that area, and they are very loving, and they're probably, when I look at them, they're probably about 5'4" or so, had beautiful shimmering white skin and the almond black eyes. So I just had a great time being on the ship.
Can I just talk a little bit about these whites? You say not to be confused with the tall whites. That what's his name that met in the desert? Charles. Yeah. Charles Hall met. So the ones that he met looked very humanoid, and they were tall, and he said that they had spindly, sort of very thin hair, and they were pretty iridescent. So the ones that you knew on the ships, did you say that you called them tall whites or just whites?
They're tall white Zeta Masters. So we could say it's a different lineage.
But they're short. You said they're like 5 foot tall, so they're actually not.
Right. They're very, very star being. The star beings in Nevada, the tall whites in Nevada, they could acclimate to Earth.
Right.
My parents would not be able to do that because they're too, I guess I will say, too highly evolved, and they're on the ships.
Yeah. I often think about that where, lots of people are saying, when are they going to come down and shake our hands and all that sort of thing? But so many of them, as you say, cannot acclimate to the physical environment, the microbiome environment, as well as the consciousness environment. They just can't be in the level of consciousness that is the collective. Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yes. And so on the ship, like I said, it was unconditional love. Yeah. And I was with a group of 8 children. Some of them were from different countries. We were all hybrids. We were all genetically altered. And so we were there to learn. So almost every night I was on the ship learning, which I loved. I loved being with this group of children. It was really fun for me on the ship. We were allowed to be children. And one of the things I used to love was kind of floating up and down the corridors in the ship, because on the ship there really isn't a physical floor, and actually the ship isn't physical, it's more of a hologram. But it appear physical or quasi-physical depending on their intention. But for me it was like a very much of a floating kind of feeling. And so in these classes we got to learn how to develop our skills telepathically. We were learning how to have an image like of an animal or something, and to project that on a holographic screen that they had on the ship. So they were trying to teach us how to focus our energies, how to create that somewhere else. We used to create balls of light that would float between our hands, and then we would kind of play catch with these balls of light on the ship, which was really, again, it was really fun. And one time, well, it was more than one time, but the star beings created, I'm calling it a subspace bubble that was outside of the ship. So we were in that bubble, like in the middle of space. And they were teaching us about other star systems, other planets, about the Earth, about sacred geometry, about sound and light. And it was an awesome experience that I will never forget, because think about being in a transparent bubble of light, this transparent bubble in space.
Wow. I know. Think about it. I know. It sounds incredible. Jacquelin, I've often thought about it. And I'm sure in my astral form I've experienced it, because it's almost like I have memory of it. Being in a ship, being able to look out into the cosmos and, just see out in space, like see the planets and everything. Like we've seen it depicted on our television shows, in different sci-fi television shows. But yeah, I definitely have memory of it. I want to say hi to the people that are online, the beautiful Shirley high-fiving, and Susan, and Jan is online. We were talking about you, Jan, experiencer interviews. We were chatting about you before we went live. He says, greetings to you both. Much love from Canada. Yeah, Jan said, Mr. Gray in Canada. Because I think you've been on Jan's show as well, haven't you?
Yes. Love to you, Jan.
So the telekinetic lessons that you got from these beings, like they were showing you how to use the power of your mind. Have you ever used them as a physical human being? I mean, they were teaching you in your human form. Have you used that on Earth as a child or an adult?
So telepathy is natural for me. It's always been it's just always been natural for me. When I was a young girl, I would tell my mother that I could hear the trees sing.
Nice.
And she said, no, trees don't sing. and so for a while, my skills and talents kind of went underground.
Yeah.
But I knew, and later on, all those skills and talents opened back up. And so it's been a journey of really all of those opening and expanding. I will share that I was telekinetic, and the star beings did block the memories of my parents. They could not have handled it for sure. But there was a memory I do have when I was very, very young. I was telekinetic, and I was moving an object around in the midair, and my mother totally freaked out and ran out of the room. And so the star beings did step in to block her because she would have lost it. So, and my skills with that were tempered, or however you want to say that. But later on, I was just sharing this on a webinar I did, that I would walk down the aisles in a grocery store and things would fly off the shelf. And one time I was talking to a friend, thank goodness she was in the Reiki, and she knew I was a star being and that, and we were sitting and talking, and there was a bar of soap really close to us on the shelf, and it just like flipped off the shelf and landed on the floor. So we like both laughed because we knew what was going on. I kind of made a decision at some point to not to try and enhance that skill. I still have things sometimes just happening around me, depending on where my energy is at, that things fly around or move around and end up in places they can't possibly end up. So
yes. I can imagine to integrate into the human society, having that ability wouldn't help.
No,
so it's interesting that they. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say I don't try and enhance this, but I mean, even earlier today, my energy was just kind of hyped up because I've been working with the mantis beings and things like that. And all of a sudden I hit this object. I have like this glass little whale or dolphin, and it came up off and it hit, get this, carpet, but it bounced and ended up in a bowl that was 3 feet away. And I'm going like, okay, I need the ground. I need to. So things like that happen. And but it's not my focus at all.
I want to tell you something that happened to me day before yesterday. Somebody had sent me a link on text, and I wanted to open it on my computer, and I don't have text on my computer, so I needed to get the link onto my computer. So I copied the link on my phone, and then I got distracted. And then I went to my computer and I pressed paste into Messenger, because if I paste it into Messenger, I can open it up on my computer and see the link, see the website on my computer. But I forgot to paste the link in Messenger on my phone because I got distracted. And I pasted the link on my computer because I was in this forgetfulness, and it worked. And then I realized that shouldn't have worked. That shouldn't have worked. Like, why did that work? So it's sort of like the link flew through. Yeah. Because
energetically it landed up where it was.
Energetically it landed in. I should have pasted it on my phone in Messenger, but I went to my computer because I got distracted and forgot, and then went click paste, and then it worked. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, it was so strange. I just want to say hi to Alison, and Jan says hi. Yeah, and Rob is here. Hi, Jacquelin Smith. Miss you.
Oh, hi, Rob. I miss you too.
He says. Robert Fullington.
Yeah.
And he's sending ET hugs. Yeah. So, but I think that these, I would imagine as a child or as a young adult, you made that decision, but these sorts of abilities are coming back on tap, back online. Have you started playing with them, like reopening them?
Well, the talents and gifts that I've been given, I continue to use them, and they do continue to expand and grow, with what we're walking through now. What people call the junk DNA is not junk DNA. And there are light codes in the junk DNA that are really opening at an accelerated rate right now. So many people really are getting more in touch with their intuition, clairvoyance, clairaudience, just everything, all these talents that really are innate and natural are now opening for many, many, many people.
Yeah. But you would have been able to read people's energy your whole life, right? You know when someone's lying, how someone feels. I mean, I have, and so it's not like that was turned off.
Oh no! I've never turned those off. The telekinesis I turned off because walking down the aisle of a grocery store and stuff's flying off the shelves as you're walking down is not a deal. It's not what you want people to really be seeing, right? And so I'm here to share, what I know, the talents and skills, all that's wonderful. But for me, I like to share my journey as a star being, helping support other experiencers and hybrids so that, they know they're not crazy, and that, they can maybe resonate with some things I've written about in my book or that I talk about. So it's, to me, that's the key focus. And I always like coming from the heart. The heart is the key thing with all of this anyway. The star beings have told me forever that living from the heart is the most important thing. And right now, it's even more important that we listen to our hearts and follow what our hearts are telling us in terms of our own lives, what our missions are, and to follow that.
Yeah.
To me, that's always the most important
message. Yeah, I love that. And I've noticed, having spoken to a lot of galactics and the hybrids and dual souls over the years. Judy has that message. She really hammers that message home. It's fascinating to hear about all the extraterrestrial things, but if we don't stop fighting with each other and hating each other, we're not going anywhere. They're not coming to us and we're not going to them. It's like we've got to feel more unified and more connected as a human race, right?
Yeah, one of their key messages that they've shared with me for years and years and years and years is we are all one. They understand that in a way, with us, with the 3D, it's people think we're separate. We're all separate. But moving into the higher dimensions, really coming from that energy, from that point of view, we are all one. And the star beings understand this in a really profound way than we do. They really understand that energetic oneness, that it's true. There is no other, that we are all one. And to really start understanding that and feeling that.
Start living it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So when we get upset with someone, instead of going down that path of being right about how wrong they are, like put the brakes on and start saying, how am I unified with this person? How have I felt like that before? Like find the unity.
Right.
Find the unity.
To put myself in their shoes.
To put myself in their shoes. Yeah, we've had lots of spiritual masters that have been telling us that for thousands of years. And are we listening?
Absolutely. And I wanted to mention, when I was on the ship as a little girl, one of the most wonderful things that I got to experience was us connecting with the hybrid children on the ship.
Yeah.
And the hybrid children on the ship, when I would enter a room to see the children, they were all colors. It was like seeing a rainbow. There were beings who were blue and red and orange and pink and black and white. And some of them had a lot of hair, some had little hair, some had no hair, some had almond shaped eyes, some had round eyes, some had 3 eyes. So there was a wide variety of these children, and there were guardians on the ship who watched over the children, and they really loved the children. So when we played with them, they what we had to give them was to help them understand what it was like to be more human. So there was one particular little girl that I played with named Aslan, and we used to swing our arms together and do those kinds of things that little girls do. And so I was helping her understand what it was like to be human. And we would play hide and seek and patty cake. And so they were, I was helping her to understand her human DNA that she had within her.
Yeah.
And she was helping me to better understand the star being DNA that was in me. So she taught me more about telepathy and telekinesis. So there was this incredible exchange. And Aslan at one point was ill and she had to leave her body. They did this beautiful ceremony where she was conscious in leaving, totally conscious. I watched her leave her body, and her body just dissolved, and she was just light.
Wow.
And it was an amazing ceremony, sacred ceremony to watch. And I was really close with Azalon. So what was a real gift to me is later on when I had my hybrid children, she was one of them.
Oh,
So she reincarnated as one of the hybrid children.
beautiful.
And that child is one who looked like me on the ship, because I used to visit, when I was older, visit my hybrid children on the ship. I have over 40 hybrid children, but
Wow.
she looked just like me, and they integrated her into the earth plane. She lives in another country, and she and I communicate telepathically. We've never met, probably will not, but we have conversations. She's a healer. She has 2 children and a husband. So we have these conversations telepathically, which is really, I'm really grateful for that. And so it's more and more hybrid children are being integrated onto the earth plane to help raise the consciousness of humanity. And the whole point of the hybridization program is for evolution, is for humanity to have the opportunity to evolve. But they benefit as well, because a number of my children, I call them children, they go to other star systems. They're sharing about the human DNA.
Right.
As well as the other DNAs they might have, within them. So it's a whole cosmic evolutionary process that goes on with the hybridization program. And it's, I've experienced it in a very positive way. There's various ways that hybrid children can be created. Would you like me to talk about that, or?
I would. That's just fascinating. I've spoken to quite a few people about the hybridization program, and I've never sort of seen it so expanded like that. Yeah, like I've got a million questions, but I'll probably forget them. Susan says here, what does she say? Hey, Susan. During a healing session this summer, I saw hybrid children on the ship who I felt were created from my eggs that I donated in the past, in a past life. I felt that they will be coming in, but not sure how. Thanks for sharing that. So I want to just get back to you. I want you to share more about the hybridization program, but back to your friend whose consciousness incarnated as a hybrid body on the earth, and you communicate telepathically. Have you wanted to meet physically, or even just talk over Zoom or on, your iPhone or whatever?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Sure. But it just, for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel quite right.
Wow. Okay.
And also, I want her to stay very safe.
So is she conscious? Yes, that's a stupid question, but for the audience, is she conscious of who she is? Like, does she communicate like you to other people openly and publicly about who she is?
Yes.
Probably not. She does.
In her setting, to whatever she feels comfortable with, whatever feels appropriate for her to do. But she's a healer. She does a lot of healing work with people.
Yeah, I'm getting the message that she only communicates to a select amount of people, but not as openly, as publicly as you. Yeah, that's not part of her soul mission plan.
Correct.
Yeah, interesting. So I want to get back to the DNA, because you are a mixture of 7 different species in your DNA. Who are the grays, the whites? Who else?
Well, so so I'll just share.
Okay.
Tau Zeta Masters, Mantis, Dolphin-like energies, Dolphin-like beings, Arcturian Zeta,
Yeah.
Celestial and Quasar, which is my original star origin, and a chameleon-like being. So Quasar was my very first expression. They talk about themselves. They're only in the etheric form. They've gone through ascension and all of that. They're in etheric form, but they talk about themselves being from the 12th universe, outward from Earth, energetically speaking. So those are the. When I say Zeta, we could say gray. So
Yeah.
The Zetas are from Zeta Reticuli, but
it's interesting that you say that there are Arcturian Zetas or Arcturian Greys. Yeah, so the Greys, I think, are all over the universe. They're not just particularly from
correct.
the Zeta Reticuli system. They're like Palladians. You can have Palladian Greys, Arcturian Greys. Yeah, they're everywhere, right?
There's all these mixes of different hybrids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
To me, it's fascinating. It's really fun.
Yeah, the hybridization program has been going on since time began, well before humans started.
Exactly.
Incarnating on Earth, or it's been it's massive. But I've talked to my mob about it, and they've shown me how. I think a lot of people have spoken about it, how it's been the evolution of the human form has been all a part of the hybridization program. And I look at my mother's family. She came from an English family, and they were all short, like her parents were short. I studied genetics when I was studying to be a naturopath. And all the children were tall, which is, when you look at the genes, is impossible because the tall gene is the dominant gene. So two short people supposedly can't have tall children, right? Unless there's like a hybridization program going on. But she looks so different to the rest of her family. They're all kind of fruggly looking. And then she looks like she doesn't belong to the rest of her family, although she carries the genetic structure, same jaw, same nose. And I often wondered why she looked so different. And then she died like 45 years ago. They'd tell me that, she was like, her DNA was more upgraded than her siblings.
Yes.
And then I carry that, and all her children carry that. And so it's been going on since time began.
Yeah. And we're all being upgraded. And so, and this is connected to, our ancestors and to the ancestral lineages.
Yeah.
So, with being a hybrid, even though my parents never talked about any of this.
Mine either. Yeah.
And so, but it is ancestral. And I did discover that both my parents actually are hybrids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that goes back, and that goes back, and that goes back. So I think what's really exciting is all the star children coming in now. They're coming in pretty wide awake, where it's taken me years to, in my journey, discover more deeply who I am and, everything about myself. They're coming in, at a very early age, 6 years old, 5 years old, whatever, saying, well, I'm from da-da-da-da-da-da. My mission here is, so they're like hitting the ground, ready to go.
Yeah.
And we really need that on Earth in order for humanity to really kind of step it up to evolve in bigger ways, I'll say, in their consciousness, and accepting, we come from the stars. There are other beings out there. It's not just us. Getting beyond that limiting paradigm, the mind, the ego thing of, we're the greatest, we're the best. And that's just not true. Humanity is wonderful, amazing, but there are a lot of other species who are pretty incredible.
Yeah. We talk about the evolution of the human consciousness and the human form. And I want to go into going back to feeling more loving and unified, like why you had those NDE experiences. It's like when you were designing this physical life, they were obviously a part of the plan to awaken you, give you the experience, maybe more of, you could say more about this, of that unified feeling. But I'm just thinking about even my parents, like I came in to do a specific job and to be more psychic and to be more open and to be able to channel and telepathically communicate. And this was designed generationally, like the bodies had to be prepared for me and you to do what we do today, right? So generationally, it's gone, like we've tweaked the DNA and that grandfather and mother and then, and yeah, like looking at my mother, as I say, she stands out of the crowd of her family looking completely different. So they've really tweaked her DNA completely. She wasn't awake in her lifetime consciously, but I carry that extra DNA so that I could be awakened. It just goes back to, it's such a bigger picture than just like, oh yeah, it's about me and my life. It's like generation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really amazing to think about that, the lineage that started from the very first human being on Earth, how all of that started and how the star beings follow that.
Yeah. And how it continues like the next generations, as you say, yeah.
And how it is a soul choice.
Yeah.
How it is a soul choice, that no one is really a victim,
right,
of this. And I think that more and more people are becoming aware of that, who are experiencers, and that they are not victims, that their soul chose to have those experiences. So when I've had 3 near-death experiences. I had one at 6 years old, and that one was very, very profound for me, because I can remember it very clearly. When I went to the other side, I was with the angels. The unconditional love, there are no words for it. The love is just so profound. And also during that time, I was connected to the star beings. So it wasn't just the angels. The star beings also came in, and they were doing some things with my body. I had fallen down a big flight of stairs. And so they were doing healing work. And meanwhile, I'm going like, I don't want to go back. And this is at 6 years old. And I think I was, at 6, I'm still remembering what it's like to be in the light. And they said, yeah, but, your soul chose to have this experience on Earth. So anyway, I came back. And I had 2 other near-death experiences. I was in a very bad car accident, and had a near-death experience where they were sharing with me that I had more to do. They were talking with me about ascension, about how I would be talking with people about star beings. And this was before I was really doing this work, when I was just doing animal communication work, which I did for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you're crazy. I'm not going to do that. I'm not. Who's talking about star beings, So anyway, what happened? Well, here I am. It just all unfolded naturally for me. And now I love talking about the star beings and that. But the point of the near-death experiences for me, they are all initiations. They were all initiations for me to, for my consciousness to expand so I could continue to do the work I'm doing. Even though I was on starships at 3 years old, when they would send me back to the earth, I would forget that I had been on the ship.
Yeah.
So then I had this near-death experience, and it allowed me to, in my framework, to continue to evolve, have a deeper understanding of what reality really is. It's not this, but what those other realities are, and to talk about them as well. But they're initiations. I feel that's really important for expansion in our lives. At least they were for me. And I've had many different kinds of experiences in my life, all kinds of psychic experiences that most people wouldn't even believe. Like all my Thanksgiving experiences I had that maybe we'll be talking about, where things are flying around my house, after I was on a starship. So all these things are real, and I'm really grateful that I had those expansions. Would I personally have chosen those experiences? No. I was in a really bad car accident. I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks.
So you did some damage to your body, your physical body. Would you break a few things?
Yeah.
Sometimes I call them sledgehammer moments. Like, the guides say, we can wake you up and get you to do things just by telepathically communicating with you, but you have free will and you can say no. Which I've done a lot. No, not going to do that. And then they'll like do a sledgehammer moment. Okay, I get it. I'll do it. Sounds like control. It's not.
Well, our soul will step in at different times,
right?
Which the personality may not always get what it wants, or you know what I mean, set an intention. That might not be the soul's intention.
Right, exactly.
And so it's like, get on track, girl, because it changed my whole life. The car accident I had changed my whole life, and that's when all my psychic gifts, oh my gosh, started opening more, and I had to really get them under control.
Wow. So how long ago was that? So you had this when you were 6, and then you had 2 other car accidents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first car accident was the really big one, or was it the second one?
Yeah, I had one in around 1980 or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And then one, I don't know, 25 years ago or something. I don't.
Oh, okay.
I haven't kept track of. But and I'm grateful. I've had a lot of healings, and when I was on the starship during Thanksgiving, they did a lot of healings, and I'm still do healing. We're in the 3D, right? So that's debatable. So I don't think I'm in the 3D anymore. So many of us are now connected to the new earth, or are in the midst of connecting to that new earth in the higher dimensions. And I was told that I was now connected to that.
Can I just share with you what they're showing me?
Sure.
You said, I don't know if we're still in the 3D, so they're showing me these bubbles, and they're saying that the 3D matrix is within the 4D matrix, which is within the 5D matrix. and they're showing me that the 3D matrix is just literally shrinking. Do you know what I mean? Like shrinking. And as it shrinks, more and more people become aware that they're in a different matrix, like a 4D, 5D matrix. But yeah, so the 3D matrix is still here to be, yeah, right, to be experienced. They're just showing me all the wars that are going on, and I'm like,
yeah, I get
right.
it.
Yeah. But
that's a great way to put it. And because I feel that too. And so it's a great opportunity, and it's a great time to just really, again, be open to the shifts that are going on within us, within our DNA, within, the world. And it may, with all that's going on, it can seem really, really horrible. But in the end, and I do not say this without compassion, because I have great compassion. I pray every day for the earth. I'm praying for people in Florida, North Carolina, and for wherever there might be war, that there's a higher picture to come, with all of this. And with the earth really coming into being the new earth, really coming into herself, there's a lot of purification going on and a lot of shifting going on that I think is happening. Yeah. So that's why we really need to stay connected to ourselves, stay connected to our hearts and souls, really listen to, what is it I need to be doing right now? How can I give to the world?
Absolutely, Jacquelin. Yeah, you brought up a really great point about the ego's desires versus the soul's desires. So as a teacher of deliberate creation, I show people how to create their reality and, get what they want. But there are two conversations going on here. There's the ego desire, which might not necessarily be what the soul's desire. And we can manifest what the ego wants outside of the soul's yearning. Like that is absolutely possible. But it's the classic story of when you get what you want, careful what you ask for, because you might get what you want. It doesn't bring you the fulfillment or the satisfaction or the happiness you think it will, right? But when you listen to your heart's desire, as you call it, or your soul plan, and you follow that yearning, it absolutely brings you that fulfillment and satisfaction and sense of purpose and connection and joy that you're looking for in all those desires you think you want. Like, I want the money and the fame and the success or whatever, your ego thinks. So, yeah, when you say you're following your heart, yeah, it's following that impulse within you that says, what can I do that contributes to the all as opposed to contributing to the one, which might be your ego's desire. Yeah.
Yeah, it's how may I serve. Yeah.
How may I serve? Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that many more people are listening to their hearts and souls now. I do think that's opening. And I did want to mention too, Karen, that I think I speak star and light languages. I think they're a key step, or one of the steps, with coming into what I want to say, the evolutionary process, because with the junk DNA that is opening with all the light codes, many people globally are speaking light and star languages. And when light languages and star languages are spoken, or they can also be written, toned, whatever, it opens up those light codes within us to really expand our consciousness and to gain clarity about what we're doing here. Why are we here? What am I here for? and really beginning to listen to the heart.
Yeah.
And with speaking light languages, it clears away old patterns, old identities, and helps people get aligned with their authentic selves. It can the soul, the blueprint, the cells, every cell in our body understands the star and light languages. What's beautiful about it is it bypasses the mind and ego.
Yeah.
And it works on really deep levels. Light language is very joyful. When I was on the ship as a little girl, on the walls, on the holographic walls of the ship, were all these light codes. And they used to come off and dance with me and through me. And they were raising my frequencies. So I came to understand at some point, I've been speaking light languages, star languages, since I was like 3 years old, because all the beings on the ship, we were speaking telepathically, but they were speaking their star languages as well, if that makes sense.
I think in the Portal to Ascension online conference that we just had, you were showing the visual of the light language on the walls of the ships. Like you were showing, you had drawn them down. Was that was the Portal to Ascension one, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you got them there? Or I suppose most people are actually listening to this on radio, so they can't see it. But yeah, but that was beautiful. I loved seeing that the images of the light language. Don't worry about it, Jacquelin. You haven't got them on your fingertips. I just want to remind people too that you're listening to Karen Swain, Accentuate the Positive Media, Expanding Consciousness on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio, streaming all over the place. And thank you to everyone that's listening, both on the syndicated radio stations and online here. We've got a few people online, not as many as normal today, but you also shared in your bio that apart from being on the ships and being taught about your telepathic and telekinetic abilities and expanding consciousness, that they shared with you a message of hope. Do you want to share that with us? What's the message of hope? I think that coming up to November and the end of 2024 and moving into 2025, we all need a little bit of messages of hope, I think.
Well, the messages that they share, well, first of all, the star beings who were on the ship that I was on all love and support Earth.
Yeah.
And they care about humanity. And they care about all species on Earth. And they care about the Earth herself. So in whatever ways they can, they're supporting the Earth. They're supporting all of us in whatever ways that they can. And their messages of love, saying that the collective decides, they cannot intervene, but the collective decides what's going to happen and what's going to be coming up. So their key message always to me is, if you listen to the heart, if you live from the heart, that is the best thing we can do. And when we live from the heart, we love ourselves more, which is very, very important. And we can love others without judgments, because the star beings I've communicated with, they have no judgments about others.
Yeah.
They accept each race, each being, whether they be low frequency or whatever. They do not judge them. There is no good or bad. That's a 3D kind of concept. Everything's being played out the way it needs to be played out.
Mm-hmm.
But the hope really is in the heart and love, and to do what we can to, again, to be of service, that we are one, to support each other. But they are working. I mean, the mantis beings, they have been communicating with me a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're sharing what they can. They're working to keep things in balance energetically with the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, they're supporting her, supporting us,
Mm-hmm.
supporting all species. Humanity is not the most important species on earth. we're all important. And so the mantis beings are really working to maintain balance. They're doing some clearing work. A lot of races are doing their own part, their own work.
Puzzle piece.
Thank you.
Like
Yeah.
a big jigsaw puzzle, and everyone's got a job to do. They've got a piece of the puzzle. Like you do this and you do that, and yeah.
And I think, Karen, there's a lot of hope here, because more and more people globally really are waking up.
Yeah.
And understanding that they are, whatever you want to say, cosmic citizens or star beings. We are not from Earth. And as everyone continues to awaken and open more and more consciousness, is expanding. And with that comes more awareness and more, I think, people can be led into the heart. The mantis beings talk to me all the time. All these beings do, about being in the heart. And I just think last week put on YouTube a technique that the mantis beings gave me to connect the heart with the brain, which connects us with the pineal and the pituitary, then back to the heart, to the abdominal area, which connects us with our other brain, our gut that knows the truth, and back to the heart. So it brings, a connectedness. And excuse me?
Cohesion.
I was just going to say that, so that I feel that was given to me to share, to help people stay connected to themselves during this time, and to not take in just all the world's stuff.
Yeah. It's easy to do.
It is. It really is.
Taking all the world's stuff. Like, I had this beautiful woman on the show. Jacquelin and I were yakking for about half an hour before we went live. Ann Tucker, who channels the angels, and she does a lot of predictive stuff. And she was talking about the earth changes that are coming up. And there's a lot of people online talking about the mass exodus, a lot of people dying. There's been a lot of people leaving the planet since, well, they're always leaving the planet, I have to say, but it's been increasing since 2020. And Jacquelin and I were talking about a friend of mine, because I said, not just people who are asleep, because I think that Ann Tucker was saying that as we shift into a new reality, because Mother Gaia's consciousness is raising, so it's not about good or bad or right or wrong for like who stays and who doesn't. It's just like, who's coming with me, she says, because I'm shifting into a new experience. So who's coming with me? So people that are very galactic and spiritual and cosmically based are leaving, and people that are very asleep are leaving. So there's no, like specific that's leaving. What do the mantis or your star mob say about this mass exodus, people leaving their physical form?
Yeah, it's, well, of course, the soul decides that.
Right.
And so it's their souls are just choosing to move into a different consciousness at that point, this point, whatever, to have a different experience. Like everybody, hard to find words for this. Everyone is not meant to be here. Everyone is not meant to be awake, like you were saying, Karen.
Yeah.
So, but there are periods of time because of the energies when more people choose to leave, when their souls choose to leave to go do work on other levels.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So they can work better from another level than being here in the physical.
Yeah. And Jacquelin and I were discussing a friend, because I had a friend who died about 10 years ago. He was only 62 at the time he died, so he'd be 72 now if he was still alive. He was totally cosmic. He put on events in his house, and he was always talking about this stuff, and he had 7 kids, and his kids always thought he was crazy. You're mad, Dad. You're mad. You're mad. You're crazy. You're crazy. But, yeah, he died young, 62. He died young. And but he's back. He actually already incarnated as his grandchild before he even left his physical body. Like, he's back. So it was almost like he was just swapping out the old body for a new one, because he actually does want to be a part of this shift.
Right.
But he wanted like another body. Like, oh, this body's a little old. I'm gonna get a new one. And yeah. So yeah. So how old would his grandchild be now? Like, he'd be a young teenager now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, death is not the end, as like we think that. My mother, who died 45 years ago, she's back. She's a young adult now, even though she wasn't consciously awake in that lifetime. She has me as an auntie now, who is consciously awake, who can help her be awake in this lifetime. So even though she carried the hybrid DNA that she gave to me to be able to be really psychic and open, she now carries, because she's still in the family lineage, she now carries that in her lifetime. Yeah, it's so fascinating, the continuum of life. We get so fixed and stuck on this one earth life being all that is, but we're just back and forth all the time.
Yeah, it's just a shift. It's just a shift into another plane of consciousness, or however you want to say that. And because so many people are afraid of death, of leaving the body, but it's just like excuse me, just like taking off your clothes. We take off our body.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Years ago, when I was a young naturopathic student, I think it was about 23, 24, there was some extracurricular material, classes that were offered. And there was this Aussie woman that came in, and she spoke about her near-death experience. It was the first time I'd ever heard of it. And she said exactly that, Jacquelin. She said, I think she died giving birth. Anyway, something happened. She was in hospital. And she died, and she saw herself hovering above the body. And she said she looked down on her body. She said, I looked on it as if I had taken off my, shirt at the end of the day. I just took it off. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that, when I was like in my early 20s. Yeah. Yeah, it's so important to understand that, death, because it stops a lot of grieving when you understand we're still here. Anyway, we're running out of time. You were wanting to go into the hybrid program in more detail. You said, do you want me to talk about that? Do you want to talk about that now?
I think with the hybrid program, I'm not sure if I covered it all or not. I think, again, the bottom line, the key with the hybridization programs is for the sake of evolution. And it benefits everyone, in the sense of the star beings. They benefit because when they have the human DNA, they can go, some of them, more deeply into their emotions. Star beings have emotions, absolutely. but they can go more deeply and develop in other ways. And when, with my receiving their DNA, I feel like I'm a bridge, so I can share the star being perspective or the human perspective, since I'm in a human body and have experienced what it's like to be a human. It's very important, and this has been going on forever. It's not something new, and this is going to continue. And this is again for the evolution of the cosmos. I've been told by the star beings, this is a whole cosmic evolution. It's not just humanity.
Yeah.
It's not just Earth. The entire cosmos is evolving, and the star beings have told me during this time, and there's tons of astrological things going on, all the solar activity going on, more flares going on, which pours more light on the earth and through us, and gives us the opportunity to expand, to grow, to integrate that light, and to, again, be more in touch with what we're here for.
Yeah.
And how we can support each other, how we can serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you were saying that it's not just the humans that are evolving. Everyone's evolving, the whole cosmos, but the animals are evolving too. I was listening to someone saying, they were fighting like cats and dogs. It's like a saying that we have, like it's like cats and dogs. And there are so many videos online of cats and dogs just cuddling up to each other and loving each other. We have to get rid of that saying out of our vernacular. It's like no longer true. Cats and dogs don't fight. Who sees cats and dogs fighting these days? Or even mice and cats. Like I was watching a Instagram video of a mouse cuddling up to a cat, and the cat and the mouse. So they're evolving too, right?
Absolutely. Every living form is evolving, and every being here on Earth is from the stars.
Yeah.
That's what my second book is about, Star Origins and Wisdom of Animals. They asked me to write that book. They're from other star systems, and they shared with me, where they come from, why some of them are partnering with humanity, like cats and dogs. And I was really honored to write that book, and I had amazing experiences while writing that book, and the animals just kept coming. And they, I learned also, they said, the star being said to me, we don't have any categories in our systems that talk about animals and animals. To us, they're equal to us. They're not
consciousness, souls.
They're not higher. They are equal. We're all equal. So I always like to share that message.
I'm just showing this here, your 3 books. I've got this page that I created for you on my website. For people that are watching the Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, I always put a link saying see more here. It's a link to my website, and it tells you more about Jacquelin, and you can grab the books there on the Amazon links, and you've got the shows on the different platforms. I haven't added them all yet. But so you wrote the animal communication one probably years before you wrote the star origin one, right? About the animals.
I did, and it's the book teaches people how to telepathically communicate with animals. I talk about many cases I've had. I talk about life, death, reincarnation, and the last chapter is all about ascension.
Yeah.
That the animals were sharing with me, and and that was many years ago.
I know. There's so many things we have to take out of our vernacular with regards to this, because it's just not true anymore. Like, I'm thinking of that Tom and Jerry, you know, how Tom the cat and Jerry the mouse, I think they're always beating up on each other. It's so violent. It's like those Disney, they're just so violent, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll look back on that stuff in times in the not too distant future, and we'll laugh at how violent we were as a human race, and when we move out of that violent experience to a more unified experience. Yeah, hopefully sometime soon. Yeah, the hybrid program, so great.
Yeah. And we're being upgraded. I mean, upgrades just keep happening.
Do you have physical children here on Earth that you've birthed through the birthing process? Do you have
I do
children
not.
here?
I
You
do not.
Yeah, but you've got 40 hybrid children. Wow.
Yeah, I chose not to have human children. And yeah, I have over 40 hybrid children, and they come and speak to me with one voice. There's like one who speaks, and there are different ways that hybrids are created. So when I was a teen, they came and implanted me with an embryo.
Wow.
The great thing was when they removed it, they had like this tube of light that just went in and took the embryo out. It was of no trauma to me.
Uh-huh.
And so that was really wonderful. Another way that it is by a strand of my hair.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They've done that a number of times. That's why I have so many children, because they can use that to create a number of children. And so I really love that idea, using a strand of my hair to create the hybrid children. And then I had a wonderful experience on the ship when I was older, like in my teens or later, with a mantis being, where we basically dropped our bodies and we were light and we merged. And I saw in front of me 3 or 4 little mantis beings. And I was like, wow, it was just an amazing experience. It's not about sex. It's a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
That merging. And so right before my eyes, these mantis being children grew up from being very young to being teens in a matter of minutes, because they have the ability to grow them up as quickly as they want to, depending on what their missions are going to be. And so I was like astounded to see that. And
that's interesting. They don't need the childhood experience like humans do, because the childhood experience for us is such a loving experience. We connect with our parents and we feel so much love, so that when most people, not everybody, some people's childhood experiences are horrendous, but anyway, supposed to be a loving experience. But the mantis already being marinating in love, they don't need that. They don't need that childhood.
Right.
I was having a chat to the mantis this morning before we came online, actually. And a lot of people talk about how loving they are. And you know what they were telling me, Jacquelin? They were saying, yeah, but if you were to experience us in your human form, we would freak you out. You would be so freaked out. You'd be so scared that physical, visceral reaction would be absolutely frightening, which I suppose is similar to the greys as well, because it's such a different physical experience. But yeah, they do hold a unified energy, but that physical, visceral would, freak most people out.
I think that's true. I don't know. I grew up with them on a ship, so for me, it was when they appeared to me, they're about 8 or 9 feet tall, and they look like a praying mantis, but have some differences. And for me, I really love it.
when you say differences, do they have an insectoid body, or do they have more of like a exo, what do you call it, an outer, like a human body, but with a sort of like, you know, crustacean, like crusty, like hard core, like a insect? Like what do they look like exactly to you?
Yeah, so first of all, I don't classify them as insectoids, and they don't classify themselves.
Wow.
So how that has happened is they created the praying mantises that are here on Earth, and they are able to look through the praying mantis's eyes here on Earth to monitor things if they care about the environment, they care what's going on. So that's a category we've created for certain beings here on Earth. So they're really not insectoids. That's what they tell me. But in the same breath, when I see them, they appear to have like an exoskeleton and look like similar to a praying mantis, although I do not see the claws. Or they have shown me that they don't have claws. And so they're the mantis beings are energy. They're really undescribable. They're really infinite. They're a very highly evolved race. And so they appear to us when they come looking this way because our mind can identify them because we've probably seen a praying mantis, and the praying mantises came from them.
Uh-huh.
So,
so you can interact with a physical form, but you can also interact just with their consciousness, and they're not necessarily. Correct. I think that's who I interact with. I interact with the consciousness. It was funny, they were just saying that to me this morning. If you were to meet us physically, it would freak you out.
But I've talked to people who get freaked out if they have seen a mantis being, and it's just they need to understand this is not an insect, it's not a bug, because some say, oh my God. So they need to, part of the lesson can be to expand beyond their limiting thoughts about what that is. And a lot of people that I do sessions with, I help them understand that, you don't get stuck there. The energy of these beings is infinite, and it's unconditional love. And their intention is to be helpful. They do appear sometimes as angels to people as to not to scare them.
Interesting. Yeah, I would imagine a lot of angel encounters of people's star family appearing angelic as to not to scare their human consciousness.
Yeah. So I think that it's just about learning to go beyond limiting thoughts about how we think about these beings.
Yeah.
All of them, because there's a lot of limiting thoughts, about the grays, about mantis beings, about Arcturians. So it's just I experience their essence or their energy, so I can feel right away what they are, who they are.
Yeah, Robert says here, they aren't scary, more overwhelming and familiar. Well, I guess they might be familiar to you, Robert. They might be familiar to you. But could you imagine, to the normal human, if it encountered a...
Right. It would be very scary. It would be, I've talked to people who do get very frightened with that. you know.
I want to go back. What have we got? We've got about 6 minutes left. We're running out of time. God, this has gone so quickly. You are fascinating. You are just so fascinating, Jacquelin. You have so many experiences. We've only just scratched the surface with you. A little lull, so Robert says. Yeah, with the hybrid program, you said it was not invasive at all. There's been a lot of people that have had experiences with the hybrid program, and they've gone to gynecologists here on Earth, and they've not had physical children like you, but their gynecologists have said, "Oh, you've got all this scarring in your uterus. You must have had a baby or whatever." But you've never had any problems physically from your hybrid program, have you? Or have you?
No, I have not.
No. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that they, with their technology, they just had a way to come in with this light and lift that out of me, right through me, because nothing is solid, right? My body's not really solid, so they were able to take this light and just lift the embryo out. Then they could take it to the ship and continue to create,
to incubate it. Yeah.
And I know, so, and again, I'm talking about the races that I'm familiar with, that I'm connected to. There are so many races, countless races. There are lower frequency races. So I'm, that's just not within my experience.
Yeah, but not to negate that is an experience for some.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and with all of it, no matter what happens in your physical reality, the soul is usually in cahoots with it. Like the soul said, yep, I'm up for that experience. Good, bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The soul is like, yep, I'll be up for that. But, the human ego says, no. I love your message of love, Susan says. Yes, I know, Susan. All of my experience with my galactic guides have been very loving. Yeah, me too, Susan. I haven't had any problems at all. I first heard about the mantis beings over 20 years ago, back in the 90s, well over 20 years ago. A friend of mine, she had a near-death experience and went up to Byron Bay, changed her life completely. And she did an ascension course, and they were channeling all sorts of beings. And she said she was channeling a 9-10 foot tall praying mantis called Dr. Lawfin. And I was like, yep, okay, a 9-10 foot tall praying mantis called Dr. Lawfin, right? Okay. It was put into my consciousness years ago, 25, 30 years ago. But I didn't speak about it a lot until the last decade, actually, and really know who the mantis are and how amazing they are. But it was that information was given to me and to chew over for a while. Like, I'm going to chew on that one. There's like this highly evolved being that is informing humanity, and it looks like a praying mantis. All right, we've got 2 minutes to go. Thank you so much, Jacquelin. You are amazing. Just tell people where they can find you.
Thank you. Yes. If anyone wants to contact me for a session or check over my website, www.jacquelinsmith.com, there are free downloads of light language and also a free mantis ebook, and also, webinars that I've done there. So, you can just look around, see what you might be interested. I do a lot of star origin readings, light language sessions with people, and connecting people with their hybrid children. Also, I love to give messages from hybrid children to the person.
Well, that's amazing. I might come and have a session with you to find out if I've got any hybrid children. The guides tell me I have, but I have no memory at all. Anyway, we've got to go because we've run out of time. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and thank you so much, Jacquelin, for sharing your story with us.
It's been wonderful.
All of you.
Thank you. Love to you.
And please remember, if you're liking the shows and you want to donate, I'm saying it again, there is a link under all the shows, both on the audio platforms and the video platforms, if you want to donate to the shows. Thanks, everyone. Love to you all. Bye for now.